We are firmly into December, and while there are a lot of movies for me to cover with reviews coming up very shortly, I also like to look back on the movies I reviewed, specifically in November now, and rank the films from worst to best. So I'm not going to waste any more time. Here are my full reviews for those videos with a nice little number attached to the front. Let's begin. Number 13. A few weeks ago, possibly a month, could be a year at this point for all I know, a film called Keeper came out. I did not get a chance to see it in theaters. Unfortunately, I did watch it at home. And I'm starting to think, Osgood Perkins should change his name to Osbad Perkins. That's the kind of clever commentary you're gonna get on Adam Does Movies. Subscribe! Before I tell you why this movie's not a keeper, if you wouldn't mind keeping me in your hearts and minds with a subscribe to Adam Does Movies on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts, perfectly free of charge. You just hit that sub button and the notification bell if you're on YouTube. From the creator of that massively overrated pile of shit, Longlegs, comes his newest foray into horror. This one's called Keeper, and it stars that chick from She-Hulk that everybody loved. Tatiana Maslany's actually a fantastic actress. She's just unfortunately in an unfantastic film. And this story is going to rest almost entirely on her shoulders, along with Donald Sutherland's kid, Rossif Sutherland. This is the first film I recall seeing him in. Not a great first impression. From me. Impress short for impression, of course. I think I'll go into spoiler territory with this review since it has been out for a while and I'm late to the party. But I'll let you know when I get into those. But here's what we're working with. This woman named Liz is going on a little getaway retreat with her boyfriend Malcolm. They've been happily together for a year. I think happily, it's hard to know. These people have zero chemistry together. These two have a relationship more akin to that of a dog and a mailman. They just don't really gel together. Every time they talk to each other, it feels like it's their first time interacting. No, I take that back. I have better chemistry with complete strangers than these two do together. Anyway, she's incredibly neurotic. I don't know if there was some past trauma in her life. She has a lot of nightmares and these visions, possibly tied to the retreat she's on. Hard to know, because everything's incredibly vague. This is one of those artsy bullshit films. But at least it's scary, right, Adam? You're asking in a really stupid voice for some reason. No, it's not scary. The only thing frightening about this film is how the director managed to make every minute feel like 10. This is a 90-minute movie that lasts for 4 hours. Every single shot takes a damn eternity, and half of them are either interior-exterior random-ass shots that have nothing to do with the story. There is really nothing else about the plot I can tell you, because all that happens is this woman goes to this cabin, her boyfriend acts strange and flaky, she often finds herself alone in this place, but always feels uncomfortable, like she's being watched. Bizarre stuff is gonna happen, and nothing will be answered in a satisfactory manner. Fun. I love that. I love when nothing comes together. And if you want to go the route of saying, oh, well, the pieces are there, there's symbolism and little breadcrumbs you can pick up to piece this together, well, I don't care, because the movie doesn't work on its face, which is to be entertaining, exciting, gripping, scary, funny, whatever emotion it's trying to elicit. I got nothing out of it other than, oh my God, I'm trying to stay awake. How much is left? I think it's supposed to be scary and unnerving. I say I think that was the idea because I felt none of that. The performance by Tatiana is fine for what she's doing. I mean, she's a great actress. She really is. And I would imagine she's performing exactly how she was supposed to in the script. It's just, again, I have no connection to this character. I don't understand what she's even on about half the time. The thrills in the film are usually undercut by the fact that it's like a dream that she's having or a vision, so you never really feel a sense of concern for our protagonist. It's got this pretty indie-looking feel to it. That's the best I can give from a praise standpoint, but even then, there's way prettier looking movies. I wouldn't sit and watch 90 minutes of paint dry. Let's get into the spoilers, though. Bottom line, I did not like this movie at all. I think I would rather watch Longlegs 3 more times, and that's saying a lot because I hated that film too. Early on, when Liz gets to the house, she's already throwing red flags left and right. The expression on her face is constantly, I think I'm gonna be drugged and left for dead out here. But she never really does much about it other than tell her friend over the phone that things feel a little off, but then nothing ever comes of it. I think it's only the first night when she spots a beautiful cake on the table with some weird and bloody handprints on it. Malcolm says to her, it's the best cake ever. It was from the caretaker. Whatever the fuck that means. The caretaker? Okay. Who's the caretaker? What are you talking about? But she goes along with it, even to the point where he grabs her, removes her from his lap when they're about to have sex and says, oh, you gotta try this cake? What? Who does that? They're about to go at it, and this dude pauses mid-pump and says, try the cake. It's delightful. She then retorts, I don't like chocolate, you dipshit. And he's like, oh, whoa, sorry, I should have known that, my bad. Here, try some. And she does. She takes a bite, even though everything about this scenario seems like, hey, I drugged this. You're about to get Cosby'd. I'm not even trying it myself. The only thing that seemed to really happen was she gets up in the middle of the night to engulf the rest of the cake. Like, she just pigs out on this thing. Full hog, handfuls. I thought she was possessed or something. Maybe she is. I don't fucking know. This movie doesn't tell you anything. What we do know is this. She looks an awful lot like a woman who was killed in the woods years ago. How many years? 200. By the piece of shit guy that she's currently dating. We're gonna find this out with like 15 minutes left of the movie. And when I say she looks like the woman that was murdered, I mean, it's her. Like, it's the same, she's playing both parts. It's not like, oh, you 50% resemble. No, it's just her again. And so what's happening with this plot really is two brothers. One lives right next door in another creepy cabin. They're like doing a Brothers Grimm thing, some sort of folklore shit where they kill this woman in the woods for trespassing on their pop's land. But she first was able to give birth to a demon baby thing who needs to be fed people. And by doing so, the brothers will stay young. Or something. So they convince unsuspecting women to go to the cabin. They give them a slice of the cake, which starts the ritual, I suppose. And then that person is eaten by one of the nymph baby things. And I think they turn into one too. I don't know. Oh God, this movie sucks so bad. Also, when did they start doing this ritual to stay young? Was it when they got into their 40s? And that's why they're not aging from 40s on? Or did they start doing it as a kid and it just slowly ages you up a little? It's unclear. Absolutely unclear. Again, not that it matters that much, because you take a movie like Weapons, for instance. I loved Weapons, and that director did Barbarian, which I hated. So I can like and dislike different things by directors. Weapons worked for me because I was fully engaged the whole time. It had quirky characters, it had a cool scenario, it had intrigue, it had thrills. Does everything add up? Of course not. Are there a lot of questions to be asked? Hell yeah. Do you have to really, really stretch your imagination to kind of get to the point that the movie's trying to? Absolutely. Who cares? I'm fine with all that as long as on a top surface level, things are firing. Weapons did. If the movie's working on the top level and it's got layers to it, it welcomes me into its world to dig deeper into it. I don't feel welcome in Osgood Perkins' movie. I feel like an outsider who's getting fed these tiny little morsels of the cake, and I don't really like how it tastes. To quote one of the women in the film, the cake tastes like shit. And unfortunately, this movie does too. And if you want to know the ending of this film, well, Liz survives because she's called upon by the creatures, but they love her and treat her as the mother that died. So she's the keeper here, and they have chosen to kill the guy that was previously feeding them. He became old instantly. They hung him upside down from a tree, dipped his head in some preservative honey or something, and that's all she wrote. That's the end of the film. It's over, and hopefully I never have to speak about this movie again. Number 12. Headed on over to Netflix this week to see what was trending in the movie space so I could watch and cover it. I checked out the top two. Number 1 being Eileen, which I'm going to cover in the next video. That was certainly an experience. And this one, A House of Dynamite. A movie that appropriately took me 3 different sittings to watch because the film is told from 3 different vantage points. Oh, I hate it. Okay, I'm going to get into this I guess movie, if we're going to even call it that, really a celebration of the lowest common denominator coming to Netflix again. This is the quintessential do anything else while this movie is playing. There's a couple things that are really frustrating about this. Number one, it's directed by Catherine Bigelow, who has done some absolute banger films in the past. This is the woman that brought us Point Break back in the day. She directed Zero Dark 30. She directed The Hurt Locker. The woman knows how to make a damn good film. So what the hell happened here? Oh yeah, Netflix happened. Almost every time Netflix scoops up one of these directors, mediocrity sets in. Look no further than what they did to my David Fincher over the years. The other incredibly disappointing thing about A House of Dynamite is the first 30 minutes kind of trick you into thinking it's going to be something good. Even though the approach is very unconventional, it still had the makings of an interesting film here. And by unconventional, I mean this. It feels like this surreal experiment that's being done, where they took a script that had to have been produced by ChatGPT, I refuse to believe it wasn't, and just completely ran with it. We learn very little about the characters in this movie. There's no levity at all. It's incredibly stark and dire from start to finish. It's told in 30-minute fragments, and this movie has this weird artificial polish to all of it. It really felt like I was watching a fake episode of 24. The camera even has that wobbly effect, doing those artificial zoom-ins and zoom-outs, making it feel a little bit more cerebral. But there's really nothing clever going on here. It's really nothing more than a guided tour on how America would respond to a very disturbing situation. In this case, a mysterious missile has been launched and it's about to hit Chicago. The whole movie takes place within like a 20-minute window or so. And again, the momentum at the beginning is very strong. It helps that Rebecca Ferguson kicks things off. I love me some Rebecca Ferguson. Unfortunately, after those first 20 or so minutes, you're not going to see any more of her. When we kick to black and then we fire up from a different vantage point and start the process over again, the movie loses all of its speed. All of its strength is gone. And now we're left kind of like, oh, okay, so we're doing it again? We don't get to see if the missile hits? Spoiler, we never get to see if the missile hits. I mean, we kind of know it does because the military was incompetent and couldn't figure out a way to stop it. I guess it's just a stark reminder that even though we feel like we're comfortable and safe, all it takes is one rogue missile to completely devastate an entire city. Because the government, with all its secret bases, fancy rooms, laid out cookie platters, with people at different command levels, with special titles and privileges and secret code words, all amounts to a hill of dick when an actual serious threat is presented. The idea is sound. It was the execution that just failed miserably. Again, pops off right away. But when you have a lot of sizzle but no steak, you're left with just an empty promise. There's a good, varied cast of characters here. I saw Jason Clarke at one point. Idris Elba finally shows up late in the game. You got Anthony Ramos as a soldier. There's plenty of actors here. They just don't have to do much acting. It's more reacting. They're just looking at different screens and video calls and news stations and just going, oh, what are we gonna do? It's just a very sterile, empty film. And some people will say, well, that's the point, Adam. It's supposed to be this like somber reflection. I don't give a shit. I want to be entertained by a movie. I don't want to watch some boring kind of true to life scenario as this script thinks it's going to play out. The best part of the movie were the fancy Call of Duty-esque video game style font treatments that would come up like every 5 fucking seconds. Oh, we're at the Oval Office now. Please let me know that, movie. Here you go. Title: The Oval Office. And the letters start to space out over time with a nice fade out. You got some beautiful typography, nice padding, nice kerning there. I was somewhat fascinated by this movie because it has a decently high Rotten Tomato and IMDb score. So I thought, okay, well, maybe Netflix got one right this time. Maybe this one's different. It's got a good cast to its name, nice ensemble picture. We'll find out. And I fucked around and found out the hard way that, again, sustainable for a little bit. After that, it just whimpers like a fart in the wind. And you leave on the just emptiest calorie note possible. What a fucking disappointment this was to end. Just a total waste of time for me personally. My wife fell asleep after about 20 minutes. Probably the best sleep she's had in months. So there you have it. A pretty rapid fire quick review for A House of Dynamite. Did not blow me away, that's for sure. Number 11. Die My Love is a brand new movie based on a book. Book's gotta be better than this. Starring Jennifer Lawrence and Robert Pattinson. There are trace writers attached to the script, and you can tell because it feels like 3 different movies jammed together. For one of the ideas, we have a mother struggling with postpartum depression. On another side, we have a origin story for Harley Quinn. And for a third story, we have a cat manifesting itself as a grown-ass woman. I'm here to talk about Die My Love, a film that very much made me want to die before it was over. The reason I talk about crawling on the ground is because that's what Jennifer Lawrence does for about 65% of this film. In fact, I am shocked when she's ever walking on her 2 feet. She sneaks around in the weeds. She crawls up the stairs. She even kitty cats under the dining room table. This chick crawls around more than Simba does in The Lion King. And the reason I'm spending so much time talking about this is that's the best part of the movie. While it certainly can be fascinating watching a person go from 0 to 100 in the matter of a second, it gets old real quick when there's absolutely zero story structure. You know, your classic beginning, middle, and end. Chapter 1, Chapter 2, Chapter... Fuck no, not for this movie. We're doing it all freelance. We're all over the place here. You're gonna get random flashbacks that don't really add up to anything. You're gonna get her throwing several fits throughout the film that also don't really add to anything. And you're gonna get a conclusion to a story that's not a conclusion at all. Because life's crazy like that, I suppose. The issue here is, if the movie wanted to touch upon a serious topic such as postpartum depression, that would have been fine. But this bitch has a lot more going on than a baby. And I suppose you could say she has prepartum depression? Is that a thing? She's beyond that. She is pre-birth depression. This woman was crazy shot out of the womb. She's ripping up the wallpaper. She pulls a sink off the bathroom wall, which sounds like a pipe burst, but then no water comes up afterwards. I guess we had a budget constraint there. She's even seen imaginary people, one of which she's gonna start banging. I think. I'm not actually sure because the movie/story can't decide which route it wants to take us on. So instead, there's just a lot of symbolism, potential allegories, potential I don't care-agories, because this movie was such a frustrating watch from front to back. Tonally, it's all over the place. Is it a dark comedy? Is it a dramedy? Is it a straight thriller? Well, in order to have a thriller, you gotta have something thrilling going on. But as it stands, we're following our 2 lovebirds, Grace and Jackson. Grace, as I talked about already, is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Jackson's just kinda chill, going with the flow, working late, possibly cheating on his wife. It's unclear. There's signs, such as a box of condoms that's always in the dash of the truck, but that could also just be playing to the neuroticism that Grace has going on for her. This chore of a film is 2 hours long, feels like 12. I don't think I've ever sat so long in a movie theater before in my mind. Actually, you know what? The last time I was this frustrated watching a film was another Jennifer Lawrence movie called Mother. That whole fucking film was an allegory for, you know, Mother Nature. The problem with being clever is you have to be entertaining at the same time, something that both movies failed to do. Because when your whole thing is just confusion on top of confusion, on top of character decisions that make no logical sense, it's so frustrating beyond compare. Add on top of it the layers of artsy bullshit, holding a shot for far too long, filming half this movie at night, but it's clearly a day-to-night filter, so it doesn't even look very good in those moments. It's not adding anything to my enjoyment. I can't even say Jennifer Lawrence put in an amazing performance because she's just nuts the whole film, licking the windows, squirting some of her boob milk onto a piece of paper, mixing it with ink. Because she's bored! And unfortunately, because of that moment in the film, it's now the only way I can achieve climax. My own sexual frustrations aside, her being naked throughout the film certainly helped keep my attention going for about 30 minutes, and then even that lost its luster, which seems almost insane to say because J-Law's a smoke show of a woman, but it's still, I had to move past that. The funny part about Die My Love is I went into this completely blind. I had no expectations other than I like both our lead actors. I'm rooting for them to be in something great. And I had a very good month on the channel. I've watched 5 movies I really enjoyed back to back to back to back to back. It's been a good run. And that run is now over. But I watched the trailer after seeing the movie just out of curiosity. And holy shit, that preview is showcasing a film you are not gonna see on the big screen, because that film looks like a dark, sinister thriller, a game of cat and mouse between the husband and wife. But it's really not that at all. Instead, it's just Jennifer Lawrence seriously going from room to room, acting zany, making a complete ass of herself in public, and having her shell of a man husband Jackson respond with typically a, "You're embarrassing us. Stop embarrassing us. What do you want me to do, Grace? You just wrecked the bathroom. You put a knife next to the baby. You killed a fucking animal. Will you marry me?" That's honestly the order of operations, and how quickly shit like that comes out of the blue. And the way anyone acts or responds in this film is so completely insane. And maybe that's a choice, but I don't know what I'm supposed to be watching or connecting with during those choices. I'm gonna give you an example. There's a scene where our lovers leave the house in the car and they're in the middle of an argument. And along the way, they hit a horse so badly it smashes them both forward, it dents up the front of the car. The horse just gallops away. How do they respond? They instantly get out of the car, and Jackson walks over to a tree and takes a piss. They both get in the car and they drive home. There is almost zero reaction to what happened, and the scene is over in like 10 seconds flat. What? And by the way, when I say lovers, I mean it. Grace is down to clown all the time. This woman is 24/7 horny. Fellas, if you meet a woman like this in the real world, lock that shit down. Then again, you get that crazy that comes along with it, so maybe not. I don't know. Oh, also, the film is presented in 4:3 aspect ratio because fuck you, that's why. There's no reason. Just artsy. It's artsy. It's not like it's taken place in the 80s or even 90s. They have plasma widescreen TVs. So, they're presenting movies in widescreen within the universe. Why is it in 4:3? I just, for the life of me, want to understand some of the choices that the writers and directors make when they do these projects together. Are they trying to connect with anyone at all? Or are they simply just trying to make what the fuck moments to entice some sort of engagement online to build up some hype? Like, oh, I bet you weren't expecting this to happen. All right, in this scene, Jennifer Lawrence is gonna crawl up the stairs and get upset when her husband doesn't play along. Wait, we already had her crawl around like 8 other times in the movie. Yeah, that's her character. People will relate to that because postpartum depression or something, I don't know. It would have been one thing if they just picked one of these lanes to go down, such as the postpartum depression, had us see Grace's character before all this goes down. But the few instances we do get with her in flashbacks, she's still batshit nuts. I guess the takeaway here is I did not care for this one. We got a swing and a miss for November. Number 10. Every time I go to a new Jurassic World movie, I think to myself over and over again, why is this the only franchise that has dinosaurs? I know we had the Adam Driver one years so back, but outside of that, where is the dinosaur representation in cinema? I understand the budget needs to be pretty heavy in order to bring these guys to the big screen. Or does it? Well, Luke Spark did it on just a fraction of the budget. And you can tell, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. I saw Primitive War finally, wanted to see it in theaters, but it played in like 4 of them for a day. But I got there finally, and I have plenty of thoughts on this movie. All right, here's how this went down at the Olinger house. I'm Adam Olinger, it's my house I'm talking about. My wife, my 2 teenage kids, we were debating on what movie to watch. I threw out Kill Bill, because, the Bride Cut or whatever is going to theaters, the 4-hour version. I have them at home, though. I thought, let's check them out. I freaking love Kill Bill. I know my kids would love it, too. It felt like we were all on the same page, but then we saw one of those banners for Primitive War, and everybody was intrigued. I saw that it had the Rotten Tomatoes score next to it, which was around 58% rotten, and the audience score was much higher, but I'm a cynical prick, and that's not going to mean anything to me. I need to know what the curmudgeon-y critics think, because I am one of them. Well, my wife and kids typically aren't near as harsh, so I thought, let's give this one a chance. It does look very fun. And then I saw that it was over 2 hours long. 2 hours and 13 minutes to be exact. Why? Why? This is a low-budget affair, considering it's about giant CG dinosaurs fighting a bunch of military guys. Why would you make this longer than 90 minutes? Concerns aside, I went in with an open heart, an open mind, and open pants. And the results were a very long, very fun, very stupid, very disastrous final product. This is one of those movies back in the day that would star Casper Van Dien, and it would be at the way top or the way bottom shelf of your local movie rental store. You'd never heard of it. It was typically playing off of a more popular movie title, had just a small fraction of the budget, and by the time the third act rolls around, you can tell everything's off the wheels and they are just scraping by with whatever's left in the bank account. Primitive War has a very fun, very simplistic plot. It takes place in 1968 during the Vietnam War. We have a recon unit known as the Vulture Squad who has to go in and save their fellow brethren who are trapped behind enemy lines. Missing, MIA, altogether. They don't know what's going on. And when they try to ask questions about the mission, Jeremy Piven politely tells them to go fuck themselves in the most ridiculous accent ever. I don't know what Piven's doing in this movie. He's completely schlocking this thing up, which I suppose is fair considering the material we're working with. Ryan Quanten's in this. He's the dude that was in True Blood back in the day. He plays Baker. He's the leader of this rescue team. He's an all-American soldier. He gets shit done. He's one of the best of the best or something. I don't know. It doesn't matter. These guys get dropped in right into the shit, and they soon find out what happened to these missing soldiers. Dinosaurs. For the most part, this is a brotacular sausage fest with a bunch of meatheads, but eventually they're gonna meet up with that smoke show from Battlestar Galactica, Tricia Helfer. She plays Sophia, and she's ridiculous, just like everything else in this movie. My favorite is how they come into contact with her. 2 of them or 3 of them are running away from a giant T-Rex. They're in the water and they're making their way to the beach. When she comes running out of the woods, this way, come over here. They literally run like 10 feet onto shore where they were going anyways, and then she proclaims that she saved them. What? Save them from what? Stupidity? They were going on the shore anyways. They didn't go into some secret base at that point. They were just chatting while the T-Rex is roaming around. There are a lot of moments like this in the film, though, where the characters say and do the dumbest crap possible. My favorite has to be when one of their soldiers is getting absolutely torn to shreds by this raptor thing, but it's ripping into his stomach. His innards are spilling out. They shoo the raptor away, and then they build a makeshift stretcher to carry his ass through the woods. There is no chance in hell this guy is surviving, yet they're gonna humor this for no reason at all. Mind you, there are dinosaurs everywhere. This is not like Jurassic Park where they'll walk for a while and a cutesy little one will come out, or you'll see one Triceratops laying down. No, there are so many dinosaurs, they're falling over each other. I also love the reaction these idiots have when they first come into contact with dinosaurs, which is they don't have any reaction. They're walking alongside of these brontosaurus, not even in awe. No one's like, holy fuck, there are dinosaurs? What? Everything's just a walk in the park. Like, yep, I expected this in Vietnam. This is the time period. These guys are also obsessed with attacking the giant behemoths when they're not even paying them any mind. There are 2 scenes I recall. One, they're in a field and you have some pterodons flying overhead. They start opening fire before the birds are even going after them. But my favorite is a sequence where our lead guy and some other dipshit jump over a log. This T-Rex has been chasing them for what had to have been a few hours, sun up to sundown. He gets to the log. Where'd they go? The main guy, Baker, who's behind this comically small log that the T-Rex can easily see over, goes like this. He looks up and over the log for a peekaboo to see where the T-Rex is at, clearly not really knowing how it was going to be animated in the scene, because the T-Rex is way up here. He'd be looking at his ball sack. This thing is obviously still in their purview. But then to make it even more humorous, the T-Rex turns around, starts to stomp off, dum-da-dum, dum-da-dum. And that's when Baker decides, in his infinite wisdom, to take a grenade, toss it over his head, get the T-Rex's attention. Boom! The fuck? Back to Trisha Helfer's character for a second. Making things even more hilarious is she's addicted to like opiates or some shit. Like, when they try to help the guy with some morphine, she snags it for herself. It's so stupid. Also, she's what we in the industry would call a strong female lead. And quite frankly, for a dinosaur franchise, it's about time. Because this woman says several times in the film, "I'm never wrong." She takes the soldiers to a building that she has very secured by, you know, a little latch that comes down. Even though there's glass windows above them that are easily breakable, they'll find that out later. And there's just random windows that the dinosaurs can peekaboo their head through. Oh my God, this movie's stupid. What's such a bummer about it is I happen to love films like this back in the day. You know, movies that aren't in on their own joke, like Sharknadoes, but films more like Python, where it's trying to be pretty good, but it just sucks ass regardless. This could have easily fallen into the "I'm having a blast" category had it not been over 2 hours long. There is really bad pacing, especially in that first 35-40 minutes, where we're trudging through these scenes with these idiot guys who are using so much army lingo, I don't even know what the hell they're talking about. Piven, when he's not swearing, is using so many stupid little buzz terms and code words, it doesn't even amount to a full sentence. "I need you motherfucking vultures to get to that eagle's nest, secure the package, put up a perimeter, and we can get you out of there toot sweet. I am balls deep in your mother's mashed potatoes, and I don't got cornbread to go along with that meatloaf she prepared. What do you want me to do about it, soldier?" As for the dinosaurs, they range from slightly realistic here and there when the lighting hits them just right to, wow, they didn't even render this one all the way, did they? There's a scene later featuring the Spinosaurs, who are criminally underutilized once again, and there's like a whole Mardi Gras New Orleans thing going on the beach. Every type of dinosaur is there, tipping the hat, winking, and these soldiers are just cruising on by. All I'm thinking is, how didn't you fuckers see these dinosaurs when you flew in for the initial mission? They're everywhere. They're not hiding. I think they were attempting to make the dinosaurs look a bit more scientifically accurate by giving them feathers and such. Not that it really matters in the slightest. Really happy they spent some extra energy on that and not the physics or weight of anything. Every single dinosaur in this film that gets shot with a gun either A, is stopped dead in their tracks, or B, is actually propelled backwards. There is a comically funny scene where our soldiers first arrive at this base camp. They're in a tunnel, and there looks to be like 8,000 dinosaurs. I don't believe they're raptors, but there's something akin and a bit smaller. But they are just bum rushing these soldiers who are all like, and every dinosaur that jumps at them is just boop, 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 boop. They just fall completely to the ground or get pushed backwards. When you are jumping in the air towards someone at full speed, I don't care if you get hit with 85 bullets, you will still have a forward momentum and land on top of the asshole. That never happens here. Now, I realize I'm putting more thought and energy into a movie that demands none of that, and you're probably thinking, who cares, Adam? It's for fun, it's silly, it's nonsense. You're supposed to enjoy the ride and just look at all the crazy spectacle. Again, perfectly fine if it was an hour and a half and we didn't have so much dumb crap in between and not every character made the dumbest choice possible. So instead, what ended up happening after about 30 minutes of this movie is that the kids, my wife and myself, would be commenting and laughing along with how dumb the film was. So in a sense, it did entertain us. I also will tell you, we ended up fast forwarding chunks of the movie after about an hour to get past the terrible dialogue and the dumb setups and just go to more dinosaur action. And we had a good time doing that. Had I saw this in theaters, I don't know if I would have been able to last the whole film, because life is precious. And watching a movie that is so fucking stupid is just not what I consider a good time anymore. If I was still in my teens, sure, I got more disposable time. I can watch this dreck unfold and laugh directly at it, but I'm not there anymore. But now you know what to expect. It is action-packed. There is a lot of dinosaur action going on. I can't say any of it's very creative or different. It's mostly just guys looking up and shooting at things and then them falling on themselves in CGI and then the CG just kind of falling over itself. It is rated R entirely for fake blood and a whole lot of swearing, specifically from Jeremy Piven's character. And it has all the same tired war songs you've heard like 500 times in other war movies. And that's about it. Primitive War ended up being more of a primitive chore to get through. Number 9. Somehow, the Now You See Me franchise has returned. With Now You See Me, Now You Don't. These movies are like the Fast and the Furious, but for magic. And I say they're like the Fast and the Furious because they're dumb. Let's talk about this film in, I suppose, a spoiler-free review. These movies are about the Four Horsemen of magic, and they answer to the Eye. Who is the Eye? Well, it's an underground secret organization of magic, or something. The whole crew is back. You got Atlas, McKinney, Wilder. Even Isla Fisher and the twins are back for this installment. But since these actors are all starting to show their age, I grew up with them and now they all look like they're dying, so I imagine I look fantastic too. We have to bring in the youth. So 3 newcomers are in the mix. And speaking of the age for a second, is there a reason the look they gave Jesse Eisenberg's character this time around is suburban dad taking his dog for a walk and stopping off to get a treat at the local market? I thought he was a cool magician. Now he looks like a dude that makes his own jam from his garage. Rosamund Pike plays the villain of this picture, Victoria. She really is into diamonds. And she's about to unveil the crown jewel of them all. Really the crown heart of them all. Really the heart jewel of them all, I guess. It doesn't matter. It is the diamond heart, the largest diamond in existence. And it also happens to be the center of the greatest trick our team has to perform. They don't do heists, they don't do jobs, they do tricks, which is also something a prostitute does. But in this case, it's cool. These films are the definition of turn every part of your brain that used to work off. They make no fucking sense at all. The magic mainly looks like it's done with CGI and camera trickery, so your brain already knows nothing's really happening, losing the impressiveness of the trick. That's not to knock the spectacle, because presentation-wise, it is a slick movie. The crew is doing some cool stuff, flinging cards everywhere, spinning around and disappearing at will. And then like an Ocean's 11 heist, they go back and tell you how it happened. And even after they tell you, I'm like, what? No, bullshit. Here's how all the big performances work and Now You See Me. It just blows my mind how the crowd is so tone deaf. They just cheer and applaud everything that happens, even though they have no context. Like, our 4 horsemen are building up this case behind the scenes of how they're gonna rob some bad guys. Keep in mind, no one in the audience knows who these bad guys are, but they're gonna do all this shit, and at the end they're gonna go, ta-da, we stopped them, and then the crowd will be like, yay! I don't know what they're talking about, but that's cool. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Daniel Atlas. Who wants to see a trick today? Now, anybody can do a basic parlor trick. What I and my team plan on doing today, though, is something you have never seen before. We are not only going to do a trick, we are going to perform an intricate series of interplay. And when all these pieces come together, you will see by the end that we stole millions of dollars of cryptocurrency from some bad guys across the room. You won't know anything about their backstory or why we did it, but we will tell you in 2 seconds, and you will all clap for us because you're mindless, stupid ass sheep. Let's begin. It's like these performances are playing to the audience in the theater, not the fictitious characters they're supposed to be playing to. It drives me up a wall. As far as the new class trio is concerned, they had more time on screen than I thought they were going to based on the trailer I saw. I would say they have about equal screen time as the rest of the crew. With the new cast, we have that mousy little actress, Ariana Greenblatt, who has done virtually nothing for me in any film I've seen her in. Here she's at her best, I would say. Mainly because they let her do kind of a parkour thing where she's flipping around and spinning off shit, and she has a nice little action scene that I thought really ran well. Justice Smith plays Charlie. He's the super fan of the 4 horsemen. I enjoyed him. I like him as an actor. I think he brings something fresh to the table. And then you have Dominic Sessa, kind of the stick in the mud, chips her down character, playing pretty much the same guy he did in The Holdovers. Fantastic movie. I didn't enjoy him here. And as the villainess, Rosamund Pike is completely hamming it up. She knows exactly what type of film this is, and she's playing to it. I mentioned the slickness of everything. It's a good-looking presentation, which isn't a shock. It's directed by Ruben Fleischer, who's done some good stuff in the past. He did Zombieland, he did Venom, well, he did Zombieland, so he did that one, which also featured Eisenberg and Harrelson, so they have a nice little reunion here. As far as the magic tricks themselves that can dazzle the eye and illuminate the human condition, they're okay. There's some fun stuff. Again, I don't know how anyone's doing anything, which I guess is a magician never tells their secrets, but some of it is so ridiculously implausible. I'm gonna give you a scenario that's equivalent to something you could see in this film. Atlas glances around the crowd for his target, spots a woman and says, "Hey, you have the ace, don't you?" And she goes, "I don't have an ace on me." And then he responds, "You're 9 months pregnant, aren't you?" "Yeah, why?" It's kicking, it's kicking. And then the baby's delivered with a card in her hand, and that card, the ace of spades. She should have saw the signs. There's a very fun and very stupid should be applied to really anything I talk about in this film, scene where you have the 7 of them competing with each other about who's the best at magic, who's the greatest magician. And so Atlas is like, expect the unexpected, and he moves the card around, and then Frank goes like, I have the card, and he throws it, and Isla Fisher prances around, and there's like snow coming down, which changes her dress color. She just had that on her, I suppose. Just crazy stuff keeps happening, and the audiences are all like, yeah, okay, I'm impressed. I was in a theater with like 4 other people, and there was a guy 3 rows back who was just eating it up, just yum, 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 yum. Part of me kind of envied the fact that he could just completely switch off the brain and just enjoy it's like the Fast and the Furious movies. There comes a point where I can enjoy myself watching some of that ridiculous spectacle, but when they start pushing over 2 hours and it's all about family and they're trying to pull at the heartstrings and it just does not work, it comes off disingenuous and half the actors just can't act at all. It's just laughable and pathetic. And with Now You See Me, Now You Don't, you have a good group of actors, but there's some really lame-ass dialogue, some really campy moments throughout. And I guess the camp here never really works for me. But if you like the last 2, you don't need to listen to me. You're probably gonna have a great time like the guy behind me did. The movie's got some twists, it's got some turns, it's got some reveals, it has plenty of fan service, and Isla Fisher's back, baby! And she still got it. Again, my biggest beef with the cast here is Jesse Eisenberg is dressed and has the hairstylings of a guy who wants to take his grandkids out for ice cream. Listen, I fancy myself a nice card trick. These films just never did it for me. But for fans of the franchise, I think the magic is far from gone, and they're gonna find something to enjoy here. Number 8. Adding to the ever-growing list of films that didn't need sequels comes another one, Sisu, Road to Revenge. Much like the first film, this is a paper-thin plot following a protagonist who's a man of few words. And by few, I mean none. The guy's a mute. But with a hard R rating, a less than 90-minute runtime, it's hard to complain about going to another Sisu, right? Well, that's certainly a fair question I asked myself, and I'm gonna answer it in just a second in a spoiler-free review. All right, I wanna give you the lay of the land to start with so you know where I'm coming from. Sisu 1, I did not see in theaters. I heard great things, and as someone who's a big action junkie, I love the John Wick films, love me some Die Hard franchise, Mission Impossible. Hell, I love everything Jean-Claude Van Damme puts down. I was expecting something really great, especially when so many people were telling me, Adam, don't sleep on Sisu, this film's fantastic. Well, I watched it, and I guess I kind of missed something because I thought it was just an all right idea. Very simplistic plot about a guy behind enemy lines who found himself a nice treasure trove of gold, and he has to fight a bunch of Nazis to get home. So when I found out a sequel was in the works, I thought, what else is there to tell? Well, it turns out it's not so much about the story, just like the first one. It's about the action and the spectacle. Everything's been ratcheted up. Again, I was told. But I still had the same issues with the sequel that I had with the first. In fact, they might be even worse this time around. I did not hate Sisu Road for Revenge. I really didn't like it though either. I found myself just going through the motions often, and I think it just comes down to personal preference on the tone of these movies. Because it feels like the director's going for something very serious and gritty and grounded. but then the action and the spectacle is so Looney Tunes over the top. But there doesn't seem to be a punchline involved that I really just cannot square this circle. This one's extra puzzling because it seems like some of the criticisms of the first film were taken to heart, so they gave our main protagonist a bit of a backstory. We know something about him. He had a family, a wife, and 2 beautiful kids that were taken from him by some evil doer that's going to be the main antagonist of the film. And he is a solid antagonist. I mean, he's an asshole. You hate this guy. You want to see him dead. While I certainly appreciate Atami having some dimension to his character, it's really still not anything at all. Because at the end of the day, I'm still watching a 90-minute action film where we have a character trying to go from point A to point B and killing everything in his path if he can. This time around, instead of transporting gold, he's transporting the sticks of what's left of his house. And he's gonna put this in the back of this comically large truck that can run over everything from motorcycles to fucking planes. Hell, there are moments in this movie where he uses this vehicle like it's something straight out of an episode of Goof Troop. These are truly some seeing is believing scenarios. The first movie to me felt like it was a John Wick film set in World War II era. This one feels more like a Mad Max movie, where we have a guy trying to get across the Soviet border back to his home country of Finland. But unlike Fury Road, which does really have a breakneck speed to it, masterfully filmed, with some fantastic stunt work to be had, the pacing of this feels kind of slow, even during some of those high-speed chases that are going on. Nothing ever really gives me that forward momentum I think the director is trying to achieve. Now, there are definitely some fun kills here and there. The R rating is getting pushed from time to time with some of the excessive blood and violence, which I appreciate. I just unfortunately was never feeling it. I think what really goes against this movie is having our hero silent. It doesn't add anything to the picture at all. There's nothing more enjoyable to me than watching Arnold Schwarzenegger use a cheesy one-liner after he dispatches a guy, or John McClane swearing to himself as he pulls out another piece of glass from his foot. Having a dude that just kills a bunch of guys and walks to the next scene with no real emotional weight behind it, nothing really much happening in the facial expressions, certainly nothing happening vocally, leads to a very flat feel for the audience. I would say it's an issue I have because I'm getting older and this stuff's just not working the same as it would if I was like 14. I mean, that's definitely an excuse I could use, but I am still essentially a teenager in an adult man's body who has no problem laughing at some of the absurd shit you see in other films if they really nail that tone and pacing. This unfortunately did not. That awesome score from the first film is back again here, but it's pared back. It felt more subdued, wasn't really bringing me into the scenes. There's no character that really stands out this time around outside of the villain who's just, he's evil. He's just a bad guy. But he's certainly not rising to the levels of a Hans Gruber or a Dr. Evil if we go on the other side of the coin and go straight comedy, which I only bring that up because there are some scenarios in this film where it is so stupidly crazy that it would be something you would see in an Austin Powers or a Naked Gun film. And then there are other spots in this movie where it is trying to pull at some of the heartstrings. It is trying to make this a very serious, somber affair. And I do not think those two things mesh well together. Where I think John Wick does this right is the first film is very much grounded, serious. It is sad. You have an attachment to the dog, which again, this film also gives our protagonist a dog for no real reason at all. The dog's entirely useless in this film, and they never even put the thing in harm's way or give us a reason to root for the thing. John Wick, it makes sense. It's the last gift his dying wife gave him. It's the last piece of reminder that he had a normal life for a few years. So he's on a revenge mission. The sequels definitely get away from the gritty realism, the grounded reality of it all, and the emotional weight of it all, and they go more to the silly stuff, but they build up the lore. They give us some fun side characters, and they keep ratcheting up the awesome action. Sisu 2 feels like more of the same, but it focuses on the things that I didn't care about, which is building up more of a sad story for this guy. If anything, Sisu should have just gone nuts with the crazy action, made it more cartoonish, made it more funny, and then we maybe would have had something interesting on our hands. But as it stands, an hour and a half, it felt longer than that. I thought it was kind of a chore to get through some of these scenarios. I never was scared for our hero of the film, nor was I ever concerned for his dog companion because, again, they don't do anything to make me concerned for him. If you're going straight for visuals and action, it does look nice. I don't think anything is setting the world ablaze as far as the cinematics are concerned. And for the action, kind of seemed worse for me when it went to he doesn't do a lot of like hand-to-hand stuff. It's just a lot of really dumb shit where if you even thought about it for half a second, it wouldn't make any sense at all. And that just goes contrary to what they were trying to do with the emotional, serious side of it. All right, I'm not going to make this longer than it needs to be. Sisu 2, definitely a disappointment. I was hoping they would have upped the ante and improved on the things from the first film. It did the opposite for me. Now, if you love the first one, maybe this will work better for you. It's an opinion. It's subjective. I think many people are enjoying this, but for me, didn't work out. Number 7. Well, here we finally are with the sequel to Wicked, of course, naturally titled Wicked for Good. I'm a stickler for the details, so it's always nice when you have a part 1 and then a for good follow-up. That is some perfect Hollywood logic. Terrible naming conventions aside, how is this sequel though? Well, I saw it last night at a couple-day early premiere, and I'm here to tell you about it in a spoiler-free review, so let's get on with it. Let's do Wicked for Good. What we have here is a PG 2-hour and 18-minute film that runs very quickly. I would argue it could have been even longer to kind of flesh out some of the multiple story threads that are happening. It's PG for a scant amount of action, and at one point, Elphaba even shows her shoulder. Ooh, naughty. And speaking of alphabet soup, Cynthia Erivo's back. She's donning the green again. She's donning the hat, the garbs, the whole 9 yards. A solid performance once again, really selling me as this witchy woman. Joining her once more as her BFF, Ariana Grande, as Glinda the Good. But as far as Ariana Grande's performance is concerned, I would say she's Glinda the Great. Because wowie wow, what a performance this time around. She gets more focus from a character standpoint, thereby giving our little pop princess more room to grow and flourish. Not only is she knocking the music out of the park, she's providing those emotional moments that really do land. There were several moments in the film where I was kind of like, what is that taste? What is that salty discharge? Oh my God, those are coming from my eyeballs? They are called manly tears. The last time I shed some was when John Wick died. We need to fictitiously pour one out for the Baba Yaga. And listen, even though Ariana Grande does steal this movie and should be up for several Oscars, that's not to knock Cynthia here. She's putting in the work as well. It's just she's not quite the star she was in the first film. Outside of these two, we're also going to spend more time, of course, with the Ozman himself. Played by Jeff Goldblum. I use air quotes because Goldblum's always going to be Goldblum at the end of the day. Here is no exception. He's dancing around, doing his silly little quirks, his stumbles on words. He's just charming and fun every time you watch him. Even if he's doing something sinister, you just can't help but fall in love with the guy. Michelle Yeoh's back as Madame Morrible, which sounds a lot like horrible. I suppose that's on brand for the character. That was probably intentional now that I think about it. This movie's so complex and intricate. She's fine. She didn't have as much screen time as I was anticipating, and I felt like her character arc was a little underbaked, but I could say that for most things in Wicked for Good. Like I said, this film could have gone much longer. I wouldn't have minded a full 3-hour film, and this is for someone that absolutely whines and pouts if a movie's over 2 hours. But this one justifies it, because you have a lot of different storylines going on, from all the animal abuse things in the first film, to the shunning of the Munchkin community in this one. Plus you have the building of the Yellow Brick Road. Then you have Elphaba and Glinda's Sam and Diane off and on again relationship. Plus you have all the Wizard of Oz stuff from the first film with Dorothy, the Tin Man, the Lion, the Scarecrow. That gets a bigger push in this one as the second half of the movie is tied to that film. And that's going to be my big gripe with Wicked for Good. By the way, a movie I very much enjoyed. I think you're going to have a good time. If you like the first one, really don't have any complaints as far as nailing all the things I wanted to. It's the little things that kind of annoyed me in this one. And the biggest one is assuming the audience is familiar with The Wizard of Oz. Now, a lot of people that listen to me and watch this are going to go, yeah, who wouldn't be familiar? It's a classic. You would be surprised how many youngsters haven't seen a movie from the 30s. The Wizard of Oz came out in 1939. It has not held up impeccably well. I still think it's great, but you have to go into it understanding when it came out, the technology at the time, and just the way that things were filmed and how people performed those roles. It's night and day compared to what we have now. We have Emerald City on full display. There are vehicles flying all over. There's banners dropping from the sky. They're writing things out in the clouds. The only thing that's comparable is the fact that they're both colorful, whimsical adventures. But there's gonna be a good chunk of folks that go to Wicked Part 2 and have no idea who Dorothy or Toto or even some of these other ragtag characters are. And even though the movie does kind of build some of them up in a very creative way, by the way, it also does a very poor job explaining who Dorothy is, why she's there, and what purpose she represents for this story. And I think that's a big issue with the film. If you haven't seen the original Wizard of Oz, and even if you have, it's not like the stories match up one-to-one. Hang-ups aside, as I stated, I very much enjoyed this movie, much like I enjoyed the original. I don't think this one's necessarily more watchable than the first film. The first one's just more fun and lively, and there's a lot of great music. This one has some good songs. The main breakaway performance from the two leads is just phenomenal. I believe it's titled For Good, and it's easily my favorite song of both the films. I should also point out, I'm not familiar with the source material, the book or the Broadway musical. Both things I have been told are lifted into this movie in some capacity. For me, I was surprised going in, naive and unfamiliar, that this film wasn't darker than it was. I was led to believe the second half of Wicked was going to be very dark, very disturbing. There's all these animal abuses and things like that. And I was left with a movie that seemed pretty damn tame. And I'm not even necessarily knocking that, because the direction it goes, where people end up, it felt very satisfying and it felt true to what we had previously. So from that aspect, I'm just going in as a movie lover, not so much how does this stack up to those other pieces. Visually, director John M. Chu, who did the last film, he's back here doing this one. I think maybe he took some of the criticism to heart, and I appreciate that, because a big hang-up some of us stingy critics had was the look of the first film. Even though there was plenty of eye candy, the costumes were fantastic, the world he built up was truly a spectacle, something that you could absolutely see being a land at Universal down the road. He kind of undercut some of that stuff with some of the odd natural lighting decisions that he made, having that sunlight blow out the foreground characters and wash out some of the beautiful colors. That's mostly gone in this film. There is still a little bit of murkiness here and there, but I thought the colors were far more vibrant. The world felt more alive because he got rid of that natural looking crap that he's doing the first time, and it just makes for a better watch. I also spotted a good amount of practical effects mixed in with a bunch of CG. The CG, very cartoonish. The animals never look real. They do the job, though, in this world that we're playing in, so that's fine, not even necessarily a knock. My only other gripe, and this definitely weakens this film as far as story is concerned, is just the consistency of our witch's powers. We have established that Elphaba is incredibly gifted. We've seen her levitate things across the room. At one point, she's kind of like going through her spell book, and there's just potions and stuff floating around her. And so when scenes take place where there might be a couple guards in the room that have her surrounded, or a friend is in danger, and her only reaction is to just fly away or do something else that seems a little bit nuts, considering she could just force push the guards, or I don't know, just do any magic at all to try to get out of the situation. It's puzzling, and it feels like it's more a story convenience to get people to the places they need to be, rather than a true to form thing the character would do. And there's a lot of that throughout the script, because it is moving along at a very fast pace. It doesn't have time to really flesh out stuff. And so when you have a Harry Potter-esque type character like Umbridge, who barely does the Dolores Umbridge stuff, just hints at it, I was sitting there thinking, like, do I need to fill in the blanks here? Am I to believe this person was doing evil deeds for a few years now? Because there seems to be a bit of a time jump without really explaining the time jump. There's just stuff that I would have liked more fleshed out. Perhaps there's a director's cut that can solve that down the road. But as it stands, much like the title suggests, this is wicked for good. I wouldn't say it's wicked for great, unfortunately. And it easily could have got there had it put more focus on a tighter narrative or blown this movie out even grander, spent an additional hour, or chopped this up into a trilogy. I think that would have been fine too. Because honestly, the characters in this are great. It also feels like there was far more to explore in this world, and I would have loved to spend more time in it. So I guess I've talked myself into maybe more hangups than I initially thought when I started the review. One thing is certain, I was fully engaged throughout the entire runtime, never a dull moment. I was with these characters on this journey, and it's a testament to the film that I wanted more, seeing as I didn't give a crap about Wicked going in, and I honestly thought the first film looked terrible when they released that trailer years ago at the Super Bowl. I was kind of scoffing at it and laughing that, like, this looks terrible. This doesn't look like it's going to be anything. The movie won me over. The story had enough going on to keep me invested, and this movie thankfully stuck the landing on all of the major aspects, and that's a win. I think the fans of the first film are going to be very happy with where this ended up. I cannot, however, speak to the book readers and the Broadway fans, but the good news for both of those groups is they already have the books and the Broadway, so we separate all this stuff and we take it for what it is. And what this is a very nice conclusion, one that the whole family can enjoy. And again, if you found yourself enjoying this review, feel free to subscribe to Adam Does Movies on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. It takes less than a clock tick for you to just hit that sub and walk away, and I would appreciate it. That's a phrase that they use like 5 times in the movie. The writer was so proud that they put it in the film several times. I might have even got it wrong, but I just remember hearing it over and over again. All right, that's all I got for you. Hopefully I see you next time. Take care. Number 6. Certain directors out there that have such a unique style, you pretty much know when the trailer fires up who's responsible for the film. I'm talking Christopher Nolan, I'm talking Steven Spielberg, and I'm talking the guy responsible for this new version of The Running Man based on the Stephen King book. You may have fond memories of the 1987 Arnold Schwarzenegger film, but the 80s was a long time ago, friend. And we don't make new movies anymore. We just recycle, reiterate, reinvent, and in this case, remove any of the distinct style that Edgar Wright used to have. But is that necessarily a bad thing? What a stupid question I just asked myself, and now I'm gonna answer it in a spoiler-free review for The Running Man. Let's talk Running Man. And I think in order to really talk about this movie, we have to get our expectations in check. If you are a fan of Edgar Wright films like Baby Driver, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, my favorite of his, Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, love all those movies, then you're probably pretty amped up to see this one. And I was fired up too. I also brought along my 16-year-old daughter who thinks Glenn Powell is just dreamy, although she prefers him with the cowboy hat from Twisters. Regardless, and I will say, Mr. Powell, how I have underestimated your abilities, sir. He is a beast in this film, hitting the comedic timing, doing the action hero thing, and oddly sounding an awful lot like George Clooney. Maybe it was just me. If you've seen the movie, let me know if you were trying to place his voice, and I was getting Clooney the whole time. Not Cruise, Clooney. Unfortunately, the film itself is good and nothing more. And that just kills me to say, because this is Edgar Wright, folks. I listed off some of the achievements. He should be knocking a film like this out of the park that marries futuristic sci-fi wackadoo with political and social commentary. And as someone who knows how to place a camera in a fun spot or do some quirky editing, it's so lacking in this film. I would believe if you told me this was a Ron Howard film. But like I said just a second back, if you remember, it is a good movie. I had a fun time watching it, but what keeps it from being great is a pretty piss-poor third act, some awkward pacing, and a film set in the future that oddly doesn't do a ton with the future world that it's playing in. There are shades of him here and there. I love the constant callback to this Keeping Up with Kardashian-esque show that's playing on screens throughout the movie. Sometimes our protagonist will even sit and watch it for a little while. You also have the always reliable Josh Brolin as Killian in this film. He's the evil bad guy, the owner of a massive entertainment network that's feeding lies to its audience 24/7. And Glenn Powell's character, Ben Richards, he's gonna get a front row seat to the bullshit, as his name is gonna be driven through the mud while he's just trying to make it through the day. The plot to The Running Man is not deep or complex. It's a straightforward film about a guy who's on hard times, can't hold a job due to a bunch of corporate BS going on. He's got a sick kid and a wife at home. They're just trying to make ends meet. It's your classic pre-Hunger Games scenario. You have all the poor people in the slums, and then you have the rich assholes on top looking down, making us dance for coins, turning us against each other so we keep our eye off the prize, which is the fact that this isn't a fair life we're living in. It's almost as if The Running Man is a timeless tale that's completely applicable to pretty much any generation known to man. This is honestly such a puzzling one to talk about because, again, Wright's name is all over this thing, but it feels so generic for him. I have the same takeaway leaving this movie as I did with Predator Badlands. I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed. It's like the smart kid coming home with the report card and it's filled with all C's. I was expecting A's and B's, but on the other hand, I'm also happy the kid's at least passing. And that's kind of where I put The Running Man. It's passing. The music, while noticeable, I suppose, is doing nothing creative or new, which Edgar Wright is known for. His music is always driving the scenarios. He's so good at those sharp edits, that snappy dialogue. Everything has a flow to it. Skip it to bop it to bop, pow, pow. It's like jazz music. But the rhythm in The Running Man is off, especially later on when Michael Cera joins the crew for a little while. While he does bring some energy back into the film that's running a little bit stale for a bit, it also leads to some really rough action scenes where our hero, Ben Richards, he's showcased his valor several times already. Now in these moments is just kind of a lost puppy dog. Where should I go? Oh, there's people shooting through the doorway? Why don't I just stand here while they reload and scratch my head? Oh, I should leave? Perplexing decisions. Actress Amelia Jones, who I'm not familiar with, but she looks like 4 other actresses blended together, has a good chunk of dedicated time later in the film that completely derails the momentum. And I couldn't help but think, like, why are we introducing a new character now? And what's the purpose for it? But enough about my hangups. Let's talk about the things that do work. Again, Glenn Powell steals this film. He's very energetic. He's very high energy. He's very fun to watch. Coleman Domingo plays Bobby Thompson. He's the host of The Running Man, which is a TV show, but also a reality show where 3 different contestants have to try to stay alive up to 30 days. And they win $1 billion. This is some Dr. Evil shit right now. But Coleman's clearly having a good time with this character. Since there are 3 contestants, we also have actress Katie O'Brien, who I've seen in like 4 other movies this year. She's completely blowing up. I'm glad for her. I think she's a really solid actress. And then the third dude is the comic relief who really is never funny. He's from SNL, one of the budget Lonely Island guys from the new generation. Anyway, we have 2 out of 3 of the characters being entertaining to watch. Not too bad. And I suppose, sadly, that's what I would say about 2025's The Running Man. It's not too bad. Not too great either. It's just there. You could do worse with a little over 2 hours at the theater. And yes, this film is, for some reason, over 2 hours long. It's rated R for violence and swearing. I'm desensitized, so I don't actually know why it's rated R. There must have been a good amount of swearing because as far as the violence is concerned, I just don't remember. Maybe there's some stabby stuff going on and a tiny bit of blood here and there. Nothing's really going to be dropping the jaw, I'll tell you that much. Glenn Powell does pop the T at one time, if you're wondering. I hope I can see Glenn Powell's rippling abs. Yes, you will get that. Unfortunately, you won't get the rippling balls and shaft. I think that's the most fitting place to stop. Number 5. There are now 6 movies in the Predator franchise, not counting those AVP films or the animated flick that came out not too long back. We have Predator, we have Predator 2, we have The Predators, Predator, Prey, and Predator Badlands. The naming is fantastic. No confusion whatsoever. And if you want to watch these in the proper chronological order, good luck with that. You can Google that one yourself. Today, the focus for me is reviewing the new flick that came out and letting you know whether Predator Badlands is actually Predator Goodlands. Bad. Let's keep going. This is from director Dan Trachtenberg, who did the last couple Predator films. He did the animated one, Predator Killer of Killers, and Prey. He also directed 10 Cloverfield Lane, which is a nice little film. So if you like his style, that's already something working in your favor. As for me, I love the work he did on Prey. I was really excited to see where he went with this. I went into this movie very optimistic, even with that nasty PG-13 rating it has. Keep in mind, Die Hard 4, also PG-13, and it's a damn good time. Granted, the swearing and the excessive blood was definitely missing in that film. As for Predator Badlands being PG-13, we don't have any swearing because there's no human characters, and the synthetics don't really use that sort of salty language. And 2, there's no blood because, again, there's no humans. There's alien pus and ooze on occasion. Short for occasion. But even so, the movie's very CG heavy. There's practical effects sprinkled in, of course, and we have a real dude in a Predator suit, which is sweet. But if you're looking for gritty realism like you had in the first Predator, just go watch that again, because that's not this. In fact, for me, this felt very different for a Predator film than all of the other ones, even the goofy Shane Black one from a couple years back. But even as dumb as that one got with the Predator puppies, it's still watchable for me. I find all of these films at least somewhat engaging and fun to go through. Predator Badlands felt different, not just because it has a lot of comedy infused, not just because we're following a young runt predator who's trying to prove himself, but also just the way it looks, the way it feels, has kind of that Disney MCU gloss to it. Even when we're watching our main Predator Deck run through a dude with his plasma sword, it comes off far closer to an action scene from Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm not knocking this approach, I'm just giving you an idea of what you can expect. The story is basic, but it is building out this lore and this alien race of predators far more than I've seen in anything else. We're going to be spending a majority of this time with Deck as he hunts down his prey, which is the fierce, unkillable Kalisk. And you should be able to remember that name because they say Kalisk like 1,000 times. I'm going after the Kalisk. You can't kill the Kalisk. He's after the Kalisk. The Kalisk is over here. Kalisk, Kalisk, Kalisk. You do a drinking game to that word association, you are fucking dead 5 minutes into play. Joining Deck on his misadventure is Thea, played by Elle Fanning. Playing half of Elle Fanning, she's severed from the waist up, used as a glorified backpack, or as he refers to her, a tool, for the majority of the film. She's going to be the comic relief here, and she is very funny. She's very likable. I laughed quite a bit at some of her quips and just some of the reactions to things. But if that comic relief wasn't enough, don't worry. This film doubles down on it, as we have a cute little protagonist that's going to join the hunt as well. We have a trio going after the Kalisk. Did someone say Kalisk? Kalisk? Kalisk. Glossy, Marvel-esque approach to this movie aside, how is the action? Is there a lot of it? Well, these are both great questions I just asked myself for an easy answer. Yes, there is a lot of action. It's all very creative. It's all very cool. Again, it's missing the grit, but that doesn't mean we don't have limbs getting severed, bodies being ripped in half. It just all is kind of cartoonish looking because, again, ton of CG on display, which is fine, but without the blood and the swearing and kind of that grainy, gritty look to the movie, you're missing a little bit of that. So it does come off more family friendly. Even as I was watching this film, I said to myself, oh, my kids would really enjoy this one, which is not something I said about the first Predator when people are being skinned and hung from trees. Actually, I take that back. I said that about the first Predator also, and I showed my kids at a very young age, but you know what? They grew up that day. That's character development. And whenever my son comes up to me and asks if we can rewatch Predator, I say, anytime. Let's talk about this little runt of a predator for a second. What is he bringing to the table? Well, this is the first time in the live action movies that we're actually following one along as the main central protagonist. And he mostly worked for me. From a design side of things, the beady little yellow eyes sometimes come off as pretty silly. There's several moments in the film where I'm just looking at him like, what a doofus. You know, he's not really coming off as that threatening, fierce warrior I think it's trying to portray throughout. Granted, out of the fierce warriors, he's supposed to be one of the most pathetic. So it's trying to balance the look with the personality. For the most part, it gets it right. And he is a great character to traverse the land with. And I enjoyed the rapport he has with Thea. She's trying to get him to understand the nature of the world, how you don't necessarily have to hunt alone. He's kind of like, I was raised this way, shut the hell up and let me cook. From a pacing standpoint, we have about an hour and 45-minute film. It goes by very quickly. There's always stuff happening. There was one little moment of about a 10-minute span, I would say around 2/3 of the way through, where I thought, I don't really care about any of this stuff going on. Can we just move on and get back to the Predator side of things? That's about it though. Otherwise, it flies by. There are some awesome kills in this movie. My favorite actually doesn't have to do with the Predator. It's where Thea fights for a little bit, her upper body and her lower working in tandem to take out a group of guys. The legs run up a dude, does a cartwheel kick to the guy's chin. He falls back, her upper body grabs a blade, slides it under his head, but he stops himself just long enough for the legs to recover and boom, smash the skull into the weapon. It's for kids. A really cool, slick-looking video game when it comes to combat. In fact, I said that several times to my buddy who came with. I said, I feel like the director played a few PlayStation exclusives and said, I'm gonna make these movies. Horizon Zero Dawn comes to mind. When we see our Predator with his laser bow and arrow sliding on the ground, shooting a couple volleys at plant creatures, or later on when he's dealing with some synthetic characters, it comes off kind of like Detroit Become Human. I know that some of these references are going to be completely useless to people, but I'm saying them for myself at this point. We have an original score in this one. It's booming, it's creeping in out throughout the film. I love it. It works really well. My buddy's take was incredibly similar to mine. He enjoyed the film. His only gripe, which I don't share, is that he was hoping it would build more with the other films. It really does feel standalone. You don't have to know anything else about Predator. And I said to him, that's kind of how most of them are. Out of all the big trilogies out there, Predator films seem to be the most standalone that don't really connect much at all with the others. And I think that's kind of interesting. Keeps them fresh, keeps them different, keeps them from pigeonholing themselves so they don't have to do what Jurassic World just did with the last one and go, yeah, just kidding. The dinosaurs aren't really roaming the earth anymore. That didn't play out well for us, and we didn't know how to write a script around it, so they're all just dying out from weather. That kind of lazy, cheap tactic does not have to be applied to this franchise, and I'm cool with that. And as far as Predator Badlands, I'm cool with it as well. Not my favorite. Definitely would have liked that R rating on here. Definitely could have pared back on the buddy road trip humor that's going on. But overall, it's a very entertaining watch. There's some beautiful grand vista shots. It is a pretty looking movie. And there's enough action here to keep you engaged. Number 4. Popular actress Sydney Sweeney, known for those good jeans ads and those better breasts, is in a brand new film called Christy. She busted out the most aggressive concealing sports bra she could find, and she tried to pare herself down so she could play this iconic boxer on the big screen. Do I, pray tell, sense an Oscar in Sydney's future? Let's find out. What we have here is an R-rated, 2-hour and 15-minute based on a true story situation. Short for situation. It's primarily set in the 90s, a little bit takes place in the 2000s, but the focus of this is going to be the rise of Christy Martin to stardom as a female boxer, and the one that really put female boxing on the map. Now, whenever I do these biographical films, these based on true story situations, I always want to point out that I'm reviewing the film and the story and the characters being presented on the screen. I'm not reviewing how true to life it is, how accurately everything's portrayed. So I'm not here to tell you to go out and see this because it's so true to what happened. I don't know. That's not my job. My job that I've elected to give myself is to just review this film based on the cinematography, the acting, the way the story plays out, and how many times can you comfortably get up to go to the bathroom before this movie ends. Because 2 hours and 15 minutes for what essentially feels like a lifetime movie can be a lifetime. I want to make it Billy crystal clear right out of the gates. For me, this film worked. It wasn't amazing, wasn't terrible. I thought it was a good watch that definitely is too long. 2 hours and 15 minutes. What are we doing anymore? Pare this shit back to like an hour 45 tops. Because there are sections of this film that are perplexing, that don't really elevate the story or the character or really go anywhere at all. Here's a great example. Around the middle mark of the film, we're gonna focus a good 20 minutes, dedicated time, to Christy building up to fight Muhammad Ali's daughter in the big ring at this big event. You would think this would go somewhere, or something major would happen to justify this amount of time being taken. No! It's just kind of there, I guess, as fan service to the 7 people that watch female boxing on the daily. I really don't know what the point of it was. And there are a few instances like that throughout, where a character's introduced, it goes down that route for a while, and then there doesn't seem to be a lot of closure, if any at all. As for Sweeney bringing home an Oscar, I don't know if that's in the cards, but I do think she's a good actress, and she gets way more shit than she deserves. She puts in the work here, she grows as a boxer over the course of the film, and I would imagine in real life training for this role. I saw her as this Christy person, not just as Sydney Sweeney acting, and so that says a lot about the performance. And as I was watching Sydney Sweeney moving around the ring, throwing some punches here and there, I couldn't help but think to myself, yeah, you know what we have here? We have ourselves a strong female lead. And for a boxing film, quite frankly, it's about time. I mean, granted, we had $1 Million Baby, but that one didn't end up the best for the boxer. Great film regardless, and I'm not gonna lie to you, I have total PTSD anytime I see a bar stool get pulled out into the corner of a ring. If you haven't seen $1 Million Baby, holy shit, that is a downer of a film. But let's get back to this. Then there's Ben Foster as Jim / her manager / her husband. He is an interesting cat in this movie. I could not place the character that well, whether or not he's just this sniveling, weaselly manager who seems to know an okay amount about the sport, but is clearly just riding Christie's coattails to stardom. He's a disgusting manipulator, he's controlling, he's abusive, he's an all-around piece of shit, but he also comes off as very small and pathetic and cowardly and weak, and I mean, I guess that's maybe what the guy was in real life, so in that case, Ben Foster did a great job. He was just kind of hard for me to read early on, but maybe that was the point. Merritt Wever has a decent chunk of time in this movie as well as Christie's mother, Joyce. And damn it, Merritt is one of those frustrating actors where I'm watching the whole freaking movie in my brain trying to rack where I saw her before. I'm like, where is this woman from? And my buddy that went with me was doing the same thing. I'm like, where the fuck do I know this lady from? It wasn't until the movie ended where we got outside, I looked it up on IMDb, and she was in like 9 episodes of The Walking Dead and a few episodes of New Girl. And I'm like, oh, there it is, Walking Dead, that's what I know her from. Well, that could have saved me 2+ hours of agony trying to figure it out every time she showed up on camera. Anyway, Joyce's relationship with her daughter is awful, and you really do feel terrible for Christy throughout this entire film. You feel terrible, you feel frustrated at the choices Christy makes, but it's because she was brought up in a world where everybody was telling her what to do, moving her down certain avenues, and anytime she tried to make her own decisions, she winds up falling back to the most toxic, disgusting people that just want to take advantage of her skill set. I went into this blind as a bat. I knew nothing about Christy Martin other than she was a boxer. I didn't know her story. I didn't know what happened to her. So holy shit, as the movie started to play out later on, I was like, what? This happened? This shit happened? I was completely dumbfounded. And so if you don't know anything about this story, you should do yourself the favor and avoid the trailers, avoid any like spoilery reviews, because it definitely is a ride worth going on. By the way, the theater I saw this at the AMC was a 44-person room. So I don't think this one's gonna be showing in any of the big cineplexes. You might have a hard time finding it by you, but I mean, again, that's why I said it kind of felt like a Lifetime movie. There's nothing real grand in the film. From a film standpoint, it looks like a movie. It doesn't look like some digital garbage they shoot out on Netflix every week now and pretend it's some amazing thing. No, this feels like an actual motion picture. But on the same token, there's nothing here that's visually standing out as unique. It's just competently executed. Even though it goes way longer than it should, I was never bored during the movie. It never did anything insulting. It just kind of, meanders a little bit here and there. But because this character is so likable, and because you want her to succeed, and you want her to overcome her obstacles, even though she is crass, even though she can be very vulgar and put others down for her benefit just to kind of like read the room and get that attention on her, there's gonna be growth, there's gonna be lessons learned, And I think it makes for a very compelling story, one that just maybe has a hard time finding where to edit. There is another issue I had early on. There's a scene in the diner. Jim sits down, orders a meal, and they have this back and forth exchange that lasts no more than like a minute. And it ends on a note where Jim says something leading into more conversation, but the scene ends. And I said to my buddy, yeah, there was definitely more to that on the cutting room floor. The movie was already getting too long. You're like, we'll stop it here. Nothing of substance was lost. And I think when watching the movie, you can point out a few moments like that where they just couldn't decide what should be cut and what should be kept. So you have a little bit of an uneven final product, but it's still a final product worth your time. All right, there you have it. My thoughts on Christy. Not going to set the world ablaze. I do think it was better than Dwayne Johnson's film from a month or so back, and that's entirely because this one has a proper beginning, middle, and end to it, whereas his film, The Smashing Machine, really just kind of stuck in the middle for the whole flick. And I didn't outright hate that one either, but this is a better time, I think. Number 3. Oscar-winning director Guillermo del Toro has a brand new film exclusively streaming on Netflix, that makes me die a little bit inside, called Frankenstein. A brand new, wholly original film about a character who's never been done before. It's one of a kind, folks. No, Frankenstein's been around for quite some time. It is always interesting seeing which angle, which route they want to take the character in. And when you pair this material with Del Toro, who's a master of bringing creatures to the screen, think Shape of Water, think Hellboy, think Pan's Labyrinth, this dude is truly a visionary. But the vision gets scary when you hear that this is going straight to Netflix. It did have a limited theatrical release, very limited, but primarily the focus is releasing this on the streaming platform. I had my reservations as a massive fan of this director because Netflix and other streaming companies are very churn and burn with their products. And that's really how they look at film, is products at the end of the day. But I did watch this 2.5-hour film, and I have thoughts that I'm going to give you in a spoiler-free review. All right, what we have here with Frankenstein is a beautiful looking film. I cannot stress enough how gorgeous this movie looks on the eyes, and I cannot tell you how absolutely broken I was to be laying in the comfort of my own bed watching it on my TV, because it's in no way, shape, or form a good substitute for seeing something like this on the biggest screen possible with the best sound imaginable. And I really hate the fact that Frankenstein was not playing in theaters where it belongs. And obviously I say that because I really enjoyed this film. In fact, the only real hang-up I have with it has entirely to do with the fact that I watched it at home. When you go watch a movie in the theaters, you are more engaged with the film. Unless, of course, you're one of those jack-offs that I guess has disposable income and really doesn't like going to movies. They just don't want to be around their kids. So they sit in a seat by themselves and scroll on Facebook for 2 hours. What the hell is wrong with these people? When I go to the movies, I am far more invested than I am with the distractions around the house. Getting up to go to the bathroom more often, going to fix a sandwich in the kitchen, maybe someone calls while I'm watching the movie, so I pause it. There's just a lot of different things that can get in the way of enjoying the movie and being fully engaged. And so when you have a runtime that's 2.5 hours long, that's a good amount of dedication for someone who has all these different noises in his way. And the reason for this big prelude to the film review is I'm giving myself an excuse, and I'm also giving a lot of moviegoers that watch this at home an excuse for maybe thinking that this is a bit longer than it should be. And that is my only hang-up with this brilliant film. Del Toro is so freaking masterful at bringing monsters out, showing their soft side, showing monsters within the supposed good people. Oftentimes it's the people that are disfigured, gross looking externally, that you sympathize with the most, or you find out are the most warm and welcoming. And there's no exception here. You see a lot of ideas in Frankenstein that Del Toro has presented in other movies, like The Shape of Water, like Pan's Labyrinth. And the biggest theme that's carried over from those films here is that love story, is that connection this character has with the world around him, and how Victor Frankenstein's monster is treated by those that come into contact with him for the first time. Without going into any details, I'll give you just the basic premise of this if you're unfamiliar with Frankenstein. Victor Frankenstein is a scientist. He is hell-bent on cracking the code to the afterlife. More so, how to resurrect the dead. This movie spans a range of years starting around the 1850s. Our brilliant scientist Victor Frankenstein is played by Oscar Isaac. He is obsessed with his goal. The only thing that ever distracts him from his work is a beautiful woman named Elizabeth, played by Mia Goth, who just so happens to be engaged to Victor's younger brother. This film, along with a lot of other movies I've seen in the last couple years, is going to tell this tale in a few different parts, or acts, or chapters, or whatever they would come up with. Basically just a way to give us a beginning, middle, and end. The first half focusing on Victor's storyline, the second half going into the monsters, and finally ending with the stories converging together. The monster in the movie is played by Jacob Elordi. He is a very practical interpretation of Frankenstein. He's not this gigantic mammoth of a man. He is a tall drink of water, but he's also very normal-ish looking. You know, normal enough for having different body parts sewn together and being reanimated back to life. Elordi, I thought, did a fantastic job as Frankenstein. He can come off as very creepy and unhinged at times, and at other times, he's soft-spoken, he's well-natured, and he's learning to grow as an individual, something his master Victor won't really ever accomplish. At least, not in a convincing way for anyone else. To class the picture up even more, we have Charles Dance in here as Victor's father. We have Christoph Waltz in here as the investor. Hell, we even have Filch in this film from Harry Potter. I mean, the actor, not the character, although that would be pretty cool. I guess the biggest service I can offer you in terms of a review is this. If you are expecting a Frankenstein movie that runs like Van Helsing, you're going to be very disappointed. If you are familiar with Guillermo del Toro's work, you will know that he takes his time building a story up, building up characters and settings, and then he absolutely rewards you when the final act comes around. Here is no exception. I felt things watching Frankenstein. Sympathy, anger, a little bit of fear, not so much because I was scared, but fear for the people in the film, especially a lovable blind character that shows up in the second half, along with a lot of CG animals later in the game. Del Toro at one point was like, you know what we need more of? CG critters. Let's get some wolves in here. Let's get some deer, a couple squirrel prancing around. Get them all. I want to turn this shit into Snow White in the second half. While the animal effects were definitely not the most convincing, this is cinema on the small screen. I can't get over how pretty it looks, and the score is booming too, just driving that narrative forward even more. And Oscar Isaac, who I've always enjoyed in the past, really impresses me in this one, as his character gets more and more unhinged and more obsessed as the story progresses. Frustrated with his creation, wanting more from him without taking the time to slow himself down and learn how to best connect with your own creation. Now, even though this is not an action-heavy movie by any means, it is rated R. There is some pretty gross stuff here and there. You're going to see a bit of the surgery as he's working on his creation. You're going to see a few action set pieces. The aforementioned wolves are involved in one of the bigger ones, and my God, that gets pretty brutal. There's skinning of the animals. One of them gets freaking snapped backwards. Frankenstein takes him and folds him like a paper airplane. And I will say, if you have a weak stomach, there is going to be a couple moments where you're going to want to turn away, like my wife did, who also really loved this movie. I think she liked it more. Definitely shed a tear or two when the thing wound down. After what could very well be the worst year on record for Netflix exclusive films, Frankenstein single-handedly pulls this ship out of the ice and shows people, hey, there's still hope for this damn app yet. But even then, it really pains me that I did not get to experience this on the big screen, where it should have been. And I think that's probably a fair place to stop the review. Let me know if you checked out this new Frankenstein, if you liked it as much as I did, or if you thought it was just too slow for my ADD-riddled brain. I didn't care about anything going on. Or perhaps you enjoyed the slower, more somber approach to the story and how this narrative weaves between these two characters and comes back together at the end. Number 2. Ever since having my eyes open to the world of Indian cinema thanks to Triple R, which I caught on Netflix streaming, I was hoping to at one point watch Bahubali Part 1 and 2. Well, my hopes became reality when I found out it was actually playing in its entirety in a brand new cut to the film titled Bahubali, The Epic. The only reason I even knew the existence of these movies was thanks to the internet. I saw a ton of clips, mainly referencing the final act of the second film, where, and I don't even know how to appropriately do this scene justice, soldiers hook themselves to palm trees and catapult over a hill of a castle, forming a human shield all the while. It has to be seen to truly be believed, and once you see it on the big screen, there's no coming back, baby. It was a fun-ass time. I'm gonna talk about Bahubali, the epic, in a, I guess, spoilerish conversation. Let's begin. What do you have in store if you haven't seen or heard of it? I imagine if you're from India, unless you were hiding under a rock, you know what Bahubali is, seeing as it released in 2015, with the sequel coming out in 2017. So here we are, both movies packed together with a 10-minute intermission, which was nice. I got to stretch my feet, get a refill on my soda, comfortably hop back in for part two. If you are unfamiliar with director S.S. Rajamouli, he is very over the top with his films. This thing is called The Epic for a reason. You are getting large-scale battles throughout this thing. There are full-blown musical numbers. There are larger-than-life set pieces going on. In fact, the last film I saw in theaters that hit this level of scale was called Kalki 2898 AD. And while I had a hell of a time watching this film, I do lean more towards Kalki so far. Granted, it has part 2 to come out still, which I'm excited to see. But as a whole film here, as an experience, I was invested for the 4 hours. I never was bored once. Considering part 1 came out almost a decade ago, it still looks very nice on the eyes. There was a slight upgrade to the effects in the second half, especially a sequence where our hero and the woman he falls in love with are headed home on a giant flying swan ship. No, I'm not joking. This film is off the walls crazy, and I'm here for it. Before I get into a myriad of pros I have, I do want to talk about a couple of the cons. Number one, it does the thing mainly in the first half of the movie that Peter Jackson does all the time, and I don't like when he does it either. And it's that choppy slow motion where thing has a little bit of a shudder to it. I like a smooth, clean cut slow motion. Plenty of those too. I just noticed a bunch of the other kind that I don't care for. This is such a minor, little bitchy nitpick, but I want to put it out there. The main star of this film is Prabhas, and I apologize if I butcher or mispronounce any names. That's just my nature. I can't even say American names properly, so you could imagine my issue with Indian ones. I'm an idiot. He plays double duty in this film, playing both the father and the son. And narratively speaking, this movie's gonna jump back and forth, prioritizing the past a little bit more than the present. At least that's how it fell. The entire middle section of this movie is gonna be focused on his father. And that leads into another minor gripe I had with the story, which is I felt like the father stuff was perfect across the board, no notes. But when it comes to the son, not so much. It starts out compelling enough. We have a grandmother who offers herself up to Lord Shiva to spare her child. She drowns herself as a sacrifice, allowing the child to grow up, get strong, and seek revenge. Very strong start, but unlike his father, who has a fully fleshed out arc, he falls in love with a woman, he has what he thinks is a close bond with his brother and his mother. Bahubali Jr. falls in love with a girl, meets up with a tribe, all in the course of like a 15-second montage. Blink and you'll miss a huge chunk of story. Now, as I stated before, this is a new cut of the film. It's possible that the director trimmed down some of the fat in this section, thinking it's not necessarily that important, and it truly isn't. She is virtually non-existent in the second half. You'll see her in a couple scenes, but I don't think she really attacks anyone. She doesn't have much dialogue, if any. Kind of an unnecessary inclusion all around. And I also feel like this woman that raised Mahendra Bahubali really didn't get to do anything in the second half either. She's almost not addressed at all. She raised this kid for 25 years. The guy meets his mom for a day, has a special connection, and then it's like, thanks for everything, bye. Maybe she showed up next to him on the throne at some point and I missed it. But yeah, I would have liked a little bit more closure with that side of things. The final gripe I have is with the uncle who's not actually the uncle, but he's just a close family friend, who we are gonna find out betrays Bahubali Sr. later in the movie. But that's not even the issue I have with him. It's more of a tonal thing. In part 1, he is incredibly serious, very stern, very stoic, and just a complete badass. For the majority of part 2, he almost seemed like a totally different character. He's very silly, he's goofing around, he's hamming it up a lot, and I get trying to show the softer side of the character because he does have a special bond with Bahubali, who is a very nice, very fun-loving person. It just was very extreme in how it was presented. Then again, I wouldn't say anything in this movie is subtle in the slightest, and that's part of the charm of it. Everything is larger than life. From the combat, where all the main characters act like they're gods. I mean, Bahubali is, I guess, god adjacent to a degree, as I believe he's somewhat of a physical avatar for Lord Shiva. It's a little unclear to me. I don't need it painted out any further though. The movie kicks all sorts of ass with my small little gripes aside. The music in this movie, holy shit is it awesome. It is booming non-stop. There are massive wars. Hell, I think the final last hour of the first half is a battle, and they go all out for this thing. Although I did laugh because before the first movie even starts, there's a notice for the audience that no animals were harmed during this film. And then not 10 minutes later, we see what is clearly the fakest looking CG bull ever. No one's gonna confuse that with a real animal. But I just had to chuckle a little bit like, oh, thanks for clearing that up. You got this music. While dudes are pulling out swords, busting out the bow and quill, firing 3 arrows at the same time. Dude's got a giant mace. At another point, they take the tarps of tents, strap them to 2 giant cannonballs, launch those fuckers in the air, ram through hundreds of guys, and then we got our main guy busting out the fire arrow. Lord of the Rings-esque shot. And that's done in like 15 seconds of the movie. You have a lot of that to go through, and it's a hell of a time. But yeah, even the animals aren't safe from an ass kicking or two. They're gonna get punched in the face. They're gonna get set on fire. They're gonna be used as weapons against other people. Not only do you have a booming score accompanying this epic, you also have musical numbers. My favorite from the first half being one from a beautiful nymph who's guiding our lead across a treacherous mountain. Oh my god, that scene is so fun to watch as he's swinging on vines, falling off the cliff, picking himself up, hopping over massive chasms, while this beautiful eternal creature is dancing around, prancing, helping to guide him. Matching the scale of the music and the combat is the overall story and the themes that go along with it. The dual narrative worked so much better than I thought it would, and it really fires on all cylinders when it's focusing on the brothers from other fathers. Bahubali has a brother named Bala. He comes from a different father who's a complete drunken douchebag, but his skill set and his intelligence rival that of his brothers. Unfortunately, he has some rather unsavory characteristics as well. The primary one being he wants to be king no matter what, even if that means killing his own brother. That's right, this epic film is a bit of a Shakespearean play, little bit of a Lion King scenario going on here. One that's full of jealousy and betrayal. Hey, you can't pick your family. Doesn't mean you have to love them either. And at the end of the day, that makes for a very exciting narrative. One about being true to your principles, honoring your word, and putting the will and safety of the people before your own. If you've never seen this type of film before, the easiest way I could describe it is take a Disney movie and smash it together with Lord of the Rings. And there you go, Bahubali, the epic. And it is epic. Number 1. We got a brand new movie in theaters by director Largos Lanthimos, who I swear is coming out with them on a monthly basis. It's called Bugonia, and it stars Emma Stone, who's worked with him on the last 3 films. We had this one, we had Kinds of Kindness, we have Poor Things, and I do not blame the man for constantly going back to her. She is so damn good in pretty much every movie I've ever seen her in. Here is no exception. Before I get into it, I gotta give a shout out to the director, constantly pushing new ideas to the forefront, and I don't always like what he puts out. The Lobster, for instance, did not work for me at all. But I freaking love The Favorite. I thought Poor Things was fantastic. And here we are again with Bugonia, a movie that really worked for me from front to back. And even though Emma Stone gets me into the theaters, Jesse Plemons keeps me there. His character Teddy, along with his slow-witted cousin Don, are going to be the central protagonists slash antagonists of the film, because what they do seems to be done in good intention. What they're doing, however, is completely wrong. As we watch them prepare both their minds and their bodies to take down a CEO of a major pharmaceutical company because they believe she's an alien. For those of you excitedly wondering if this is part of the K-Pax cinematic universe, unfortunately, no, it does not seem that Kevin Spacey film has anything to do with this. Instead, we have another wholly original, wholly off-the-wall film, works as a dark comedy, works as a drama straight up, little bit of thriller in there. This was a very fun watch with some snappy dialogue, with some witty commentary, and with some not so subtle layered social messaging pointing out just how fucked up the world has gotten in the last decade or so, thanks to corporations, thanks to billionaires, thanks to society basically turning a blind eye to all the injustices in the world and kind of acting as worker bees, drones gathering honey for their queen, until the bees decide, in their infinite wisdom, to stop taking orders. And that's where Teddy and Don come in, a couple beekeepers out on a farm. Teddy also has a job where he works for the man, a packaging company that's actually owned by CEO Michelle, played by Emma Stone. This film's very fun because we get the juxtaposition between these two people's lives. We have Teddy and Don out on this miserable, old, decrepit farm with all their baggage, with all their sad hopes and dreams being scattered to the winds, trying to make a difference for not just themselves, but for society as a whole. Or at least, that's what Teddy's saying. His real motivation seems a bit misguided. Or is it? The script is clever enough to play with both your emotions and the ideas being presented. Is Teddy lost his mind? Has he fallen down a bunch of wackadoo rabbit holes, getting radicalized into thinking there's aliens living amongst the population trying to slowly dismantle and outright destroy us? And is Emma Stone's Michelle one of those aliens? Because when we see her side of the story, she seems to be kind of wanting to do good, although in a somewhat half-assed way. Telling employees they can leave at 5 if they want, unless they still have work to do, but don't feel obligated to do it, but we do have to hit deadlines. But yeah, feel free to leave if you're done with everything. She then goes home where she puts on her purification mask, she stays to her strict regimented diet, she works out, she looks fantastic. And then we go to these yahoos, back on their side of the story, filling their temples with cheap gas station food, doing the laziest workouts I've ever seen. And I have to point this out, Jesse Plemons, I don't know if he's on the Ozempic challenge or what, if he lost the weight for this film, but he went for a uncomfortably overweight guy to a disturbingly underweight looking dude. He looks like he has the body of a 13-year-old with an old man's face. It's quite remarkable to look at. It's a little disturbing. I'm a little concerned for him, but it is possible he's doing a whole Christian Bale thing and he's taking off a lot of weight for this role. I don't know, but look into Plemons, please. Someone help this man. The director Yorgos is so good at taking these broken types of people, making them somewhat sympathetic, getting you in their corner for a little bit before he pulls a rug or a curtain open and you're like, oh shit, this person might be mentally deranged, or this person's not what they seem to be. There's so many little gotcha moments and aha reveals throughout this film that I was constantly invested and engaged with what was to come. I didn't want it to end. And that's the testament to a great story. Visually speaking, he's a little less out there than he typically is. This is the most practical looking film of all his. There's no fisheye lenses or Dutch angles to be found. It feels the most modern of his films. There's definitely film grain here and there, probably because he's using actual cameras and not some digital bullshit. It's a very pretty looking movie. And the score is popping off too. Loved the low rumbles that would rise up, really added to this overall kind of disturbing yet somewhat comical farce that's taking place. I haven't spent a lot of time talking about the performances because you know what you're getting. It's Jesse Plemons, it's Emma Stone. These two are always on fire. Aidan Delbus, who plays Don, I'm not familiar with his work. I should be now. I really enjoyed him here. Really the heart of the film. There was also randomly an actress who shows up for just a brief amount of time, a major it girl from 1995. I'll keep it at that, but I had to blink a couple times to recognize her, and I was like, oh, okay, that's cool that she's in this for some reason. Bottom line is I had a great time with this one. I would highly recommend you check this thing out. Give it some attention, especially when there's so much trash hitting streaming. I just covered 2 of them on Netflix that are trending, and I just think it's just so sad. Movies that used to go straight to DVD back at Blockbuster, typically on the bottom or way top shelf that would go unnoticed by many, pretty much by all, are now being pushed to the forefront because of streaming. It's like, hey, it's got so-and-so in it. It must be kind of good. Wrong. And even if you watch Bugonia and it does not fully work for you, I think at the very least, you get something new, something original that will challenge you a little bit. And that's worth its weight. That's worth the price of the movie ticket, I believe. Well, there you have it, my movie rankings for all the November movies I watched. Hopefully December is a little bit better. Let me know what you thought about November films, what your favorite was, perhaps even go the extra mile and put your ranking down below. I would appreciate it. And make sure to sub to Adam Does Movies on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcast if you enjoyed the conversation. All right, that's all I got for you. Hopefully I see you next time. Take care. Hey, thanks for watching the video and sticking around to the end. If you enjoy what I do here, maybe think of becoming a patron at patreon.com/AdamDoesMovies. It would be a perfect time to join too, because I'm having a 30% off Cyber Monday through wherever I decide to take it. Join right now and you get that awesome benefit like these folks over here. And again, if you strike while the iron's hot, the discount will be applied. All right, hopefully I see you next time. Take care.